Hey guys, Tony here, the original king of debt, before the self-proclaimed one of today, which is, as you know, the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. It was his empire that was designed to stay afloat solely based on borrowing millions and millions of cash and moving on to the next borrower. And that is how a Ponzi scheme works. And this is how Trump's empire still survived, because he needed to rely on outside money. And even Donald Trump Jr. said so. I will link the Donald Trump Jr. article into the description. Yeah, he was bailed by difficulties by the Russian oligarchs. He turned to the Russian mob. They're laundering money out of Trump Tower and whatnot. This should be common knowledge, but we have a lot of retards in America who are going to call that fake news and all this crap, because Donald Trump is nothing but a big cult of personality. But the real issue here is that we will be $1 trillion in debt by 2019, when employment's not going to change much, where we're not going to have additional tax receipts. The economy is at a peak right now, and we're giving billionaires tax breaks, and that's just going to do nothing but explode the deficit. That's what's going to happen. $1 trillion in deficit by the White House's own CBO, congressional CBO. Even the White House projects the deficit to be that high and to be close to $2 trillion by 2027. But that's all based on forecasts of 3% growth every year. But that is not a reality by any means. But when did all this bogus economic hogwash begin? Or, in George H.W. Bush's words, of Voodoo economics. It all began under Ronald Reagan, because he is the original debt king, and if his debt increase of 186% is greater than Donald Trump's, then he would take the title as a debt king. But I'm going to predict Donald Trump to steal that title from Ronald Reagan himself. It is because Ronald Wilson Reagan, his full name, R is 6 in Pythagorean Gematria, W is 6 in Pythagorean Gematria, 666. The mark of the beast, and Ronald Reagan's initials. Ronald Wilson Reagan is the debt king in Gematria due to the false and completely illiterate economic theory of supply-side economics, also known as Trickle-Down Economics, because supply-side economics says that the best way to create growth is to give tax breaks to the producers. The only problem of that theory is that economies respond to demand. So if you want to grow it, you give the tax breaks to the middle class, and you tax the wealthy progressively, because they're the ones that spend the least amount of cash, and that helps maximize economic stimulation. It should be common sense, but we are pretty illiterate on economics nowadays. Ronald Wilson Reagan is the debt king. Supply side and rigged economics equals 146. It's rigged economics because your wages stay flat over the course of time, while billionaires and large corporations get all these tax breaks. It's completely rigged because they're the ones, the lobbyists are the ones writing the laws. The social services, public investments to prevent and to lower poverty ends up doing away with. Medicare, Social Security, all these things that are public investments that work to reduce poverty. You're not being overly reliant on these programs. Well, number one, they're not designed to be your sole source of income after retirement. It's just helping to help offset some of your difficulties that you may encounter when you're going through medical expenses and personal bankruptcy, when you run out of money later on in life, and that's what these programs are about. Reagan is the debt king because of supply side economics, trickle-down economy, tax cut, economic illiterates that do not understand Business 101, that you only create a job when there's additional demand. 70% of our economy is consumer spending. Who spends the money? It's the middle class and the working people. Those are the ones that stimulate the economy. When you give them the tax breaks, even when you increase taxes to the wealthy, the money that is spent always works its way up the ladder to the wealthy and the ones that own the means of production. So that is real economics rather than the fake economics that the right wing likes to spew out today. Tax cut. Funny how that equals 89 too. And 17. That was the year that the American Tax Cut and Jobs with Quotations Act was passed. Because we're at full employment. So what jobs can be created? It's a big giant scam. It's a complete joke. The GOP is ignorant, economic illiterate, equals 89 in Gematria as well. Pretty fitting by the numbers and based on the real life evidence. Because Ronald Reagan did not produce more government revenues as the economic illiterate Rand Paul likes to say. Except it's not showing the Rand Paul article here. I'd have to link that. Okay, here the claim that Reagan's tax cuts produced more revenue and millions of jobs and all this, it didn't produce more revenue. How's that the case if our debt tripled with Ronald Reagan? We have more liabilities now, rather than tax receipts. What sense does that make? It doesn't, right? President Ronald Wilson Reagan is the king of debt in Gematria equals 205. It is what the Zionist bankers want. When we borrow money from the bankers, they charge us with interest. That's how the rigged economy works. That's how the rigged economy works. And the top 1% get the majority of the tax breaks, and we borrow from the bankers. They're in this together. This is what a right-wing economy produces. The Zionist order, 205 in Gematria. Reaganomics, which was given to us by the debt king Ronald Reagan himself. 186% increase in the national debt. He tripled our debt. Today, the one who takes great inspiration in Ronald Reagan and Make America Great Again, which was nothing but a slogan, by the way, is President Trump. President Trump, debt king, corporatocracy, a government for the wealthy, the richest cabinet in American history, and for the large multinational corporations. King of debt, Donald Trump by the numbers. Economic Armageddon is upon us next year in 2019. And even Trump says that you all just got a lot richer. A lot richer. But what about us? These are how scams are created. These are how fugazis are created, people. They want you, the consumer, to pay for the tax cuts by paying more in border taxes, aka tariffs, for outside goods in this global economy. So the rich and the wealthy and Trump, they don't know economics. Well, some of them do. Well, Trump is the one that, he could care less. Trump knows the tariffs don't work. Like, he just wants to create a bubble economy and then sell off their stocks, and they buy low again when the tariffs crash the economy. This is how the wealthy are rigging the economy. The billionaire tax cuts, the stock market bubble helps them get richer for their stocks. The trade war sets off the deficits come looming in. The bankers get rich off the interest. The stock market plunges. The wealthy sell before the crash happens because they're engineering this. They know how this is all happening. And they pass this kind of legislation when you're distracted. Right before Christmas. The big tax bill that helped the wealthy get richer and richer and richer. December the 21st or the 22nd of 1913 was when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, which gave control of our central banking system to the international bankers. It privatized it. It privatized our banking system. It's a quasi-private public institution is what the Federal Reserve is. And it gave the Rothschilds control of our money. And this tax bill was passed around the same time too. So change in debt as a percentage of GDP. Today we're not doing well because of NAFTA. Our jobs were shipped off overseas. That's what happened under Bill Clinton. So when you're not getting these meaningful tax receipts, when large corporations are paying less of a percentage of their income in taxes, it's not like the 1950s or the 60s. And when there is a huge decrease in overall aggregate demand in the economy, where's the government going to get its money? The middle class has been destroyed. Today, even with more people going to college, they find themselves 5-6 figures in debt. So what new wealth has been created if we have a student loans bubble propping up too? This is what's happening with Obama, is the current state of the economy, observing the rich and the wealthy and the powerful. Ever since the 1980s, it's not like the 60s, the 70s, the 50s, where everyone wanted to give back to their country. We wanted to make America better for everyone, not just ourselves. And then the baby boomers came calling. The worst generation in history, handed everything on a silver platter by the greatest generation ever that won World War II. And their greed and their selfishness has cost this country, and is a reason why our peak happened after World War II. So what people forget about Ronald Reagan was House Democrats saved his presidency. What separates Reagan from Trump is that he can even work with Democrats, get things done to help solve the disaster that he ended up passing when he cut the top income rate from 70% to 28%. Oh, they spending the same amount of money, or more money. The Donald Trump administration, they approved one of the largest budgets in history. So even if you're a small government conservative and you're all about, oh, taxation is dumb, yeah, taxes cut against the board for everyone, yeah. What you should be wondering is, what are they cutting, right? What are they cutting? Cut the military. Let's start with the military first. Let's start by getting rid of these imperialist wars that are only meant to help, you guessed it, war manufacturers and companies get richer when they take control of and exploit other countries' resources. So here it is. Donald Trump, king of debt, right? President Trump, debt king, corporatocracy. The new debt king is upon us today. But you see where it all started. If you saw my old videos, if you saw all my links, all my evidence that I provided, you'd know that supply side economics is nothing but a scam. And no one who calls himself a real economist should believe in this kind of nonsense that benefits those who need them the least, while hurting those, or in cases making it worse for the majority of us. Because if we borrow, then that means you're going to have inflation when you borrow more and more money from the central bank. And this is how the economy is rigged. I covered it before. My video calling the crash, the rigged economy, the economy that works for all of us. And I exposed this trickle-down scam, and I correctly predicted the huge debts and the huge deficits that are going to come as a result of this. And I want you to understand something about the Libertarian Party, and people think that libertarians are your friend. They only benefit the wealthy. Libertarians equals 128, they're part of the deep state. The deep state of billionaire oligarchs and international bankers. This is what libertarians are. They are shills for the wealthy and the deep state. Oligarchy and concentration of power to the wealthy is the end game of these globalist deep staters. And they're engineering World War III right in front of our eyes here. The same reasons that got us into World War II, right-wing populism, economic destruction, this is what the trade wars are going to trigger here. And all this is making Putin stronger here. So one more thing is, once again, Libertarians, 56. Mr. Friedman, the piece of shit who was responsible for this destructive economic policy, the guy who says that greed is good. Nope. Greed destructs a nation when it only serves a few people, and when the common good is no longer there, then you as a nation collapse when not everyone shares this prosperity together. Mr. Friedman and fake economics, which is a fantasy that a supply-sider would believe. And supply-siders equals 57. I think Ronald Reagan, that's right, equals 56. Ronald Reagan, Mr. Friedman, Libertarians, fake economics, 56 is all review here.